right. Welcome to the podcast. Snorri Baron, is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yeah, well, it's not my last name. It's a middle name, and it wasn't even given to me. I just took it because it sounds cool. So I'm actually Jonsson. So I'm Snorri Jonsson, but Baron is just something we put in the middle. It's a long story, and I will bore people to tears if I get into it. So let's just keep that story short.
All right. That's pretty cool. Like you have so your last name is very. I think it's the most common Swedish name, Jonsson.
Yeah,
Johansson
exactly.
maybe, but I'm not sure.
I mean, but the difference is that in the other Nordic countries, it is a last name. It is a family name. But in Iceland, what determines your name is the first name of your father or your mother. You can take that as well. So my dad's name was Jon, and therefore I'm Jonsson, son of Jon. That's how that got there. Yeah, the old Viking traditions. We are the only ones sticking true to it.
Yeah, I like that tradition actually, and we should use it more often here in Sweden. I think. And it doesn't have to be son. It can be or from your dad. It could be from your mother too. I'm all for it.
But yeah, my mom's name is Sigrun, so I would be Sigrunarsson if that would be, and they could have decided that I should take her name, or they could even have decided that I would be Sigrunar or Jonsson. I could be both, and there are people that have that over here. But and I can choose to change my last name. Not that I ever will, but I could choose to do that and put it on my mom. No disrespect to her, but I'm perfectly happy with having my dad's last name.
I understand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I there are some Icelandic traditions that I think are pretty cool, and the last name part is one of them. It's cool to see, and that explains a lot for our CrossFit athletes as well, right? Like Annie Turisdottir. So now we know her dad's
name is Thorit. That's why she's his daughter, Thorisdottir.
Yeah,
Sigmundsdottir, because Sarah's dad's name is Sigmundur. Yeah, that's how that goes.
Yeah. So there you go. If you didn't know that, I think a lot of Scandinavians know about that tradition, but maybe not the Americans and other part of Europe. So it's pretty interesting, actually. So Snorri, you're here today because I told you before we started recording that I don't think a lot of people know who you are, but you are, to me, a very, very important person to the CrossFit community.
Thank you.
Because you are a manager and some sort of you deal with a lot of athletes and basically help them make a living. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean that's the sole purpose of this, and the end product is that then they help me make a living in return. So that's how that is closed. But in many instances, it starts with me putting in a lot of effort before I get anything in return. And then once a certain point has been reached where they are earning a certain amount of money or whatever, then I start claiming a percentage. But with new athletes, with young athletes, or someone breaking into the scene, I will very often offer my services to such athletes, even though I might have to wait 2 or even 3 years before anything comes back to me.
Yeah, I like that. That's you are a very important person, I think, and I know you because I'm a CrossFit nerd, and I know you because you are managing a lot of big names. We can name a few. Emma Lawson is one.
Yes.
We have Sarah Sigmundsdottir.
Of course, she was the first one.
BKG.
Yes.
Ricky Gerard, Jella Hoste, Emma.
Jella is with my agency, but he is with my colleague Lucille. So the Bakland agency I have, it's me and then Lucille, who joined me 3 years ago. So if we would dig a bit back, I've been doing this since 2016. So it's I'm nearing the 8-year birthday of this occupation, and I started doing this on the side. I was in the advertising business. I operated a creative agency here in Reykjavik, Iceland, and we were doing really well, but I wasn't doing so well. I had been doing it for a long time, and motivation was very minimal, and I had basically done everything that I felt I could do in that industry, and I was looking for a way into something else, something that inspired me. And along comes Sarah Sigmundsdóttir through a mutual friend into my office. She needed some help. We vibed really well. We just instantly got along. So and that's how that journey started. I hadn't really made any stern plans on being an athlete manager or whatever. I definitely wanted to help her out and to be a part of her journey. Then just as things happen, we made some good stuff happen. Other athletes heard about it, and all of a sudden I had a big roster of athletes: BKG, Kelsey Keel, Roman Krenikov, Sola Sigurðardóttir, a bunch of athletes that just came along around that time. So in the years 2016 to 2019, that's where the idea of all of this was just brewing. I was doing it alongside a full-time job, but really did live for this, really did enjoy all the traveling and all the action and everything around it. So I had pretty much made up my mind that I wanted to pursue this and make it a full-time occupation. So once 2020 started, that's what I planned on. That's what I was going to do. But then COVID happened and derailed all plans. So I had to really dig deep to get through those years, as I had pretty much stopped doing what had paid my bills before. But I found a way to power through that. And then, of course, I mean, we are back in business now, and everything has kicked off again. And that pretty much 2023 was a really good year in that respect. And I expect 2024 to be the same. But yeah, I have no background in this. I'm not an athlete myself. I did do CrossFit for a year. I did walk into a CrossFit gym in 2013, and it did change my life. So in that sense, I knew what the difference between a clean and a snatch. I knew what a muscle up was, and I knew what those things were, and I had really experienced it and really managed to get into such better physical condition than I was in before. So yes, I understand the magic of CrossFit and the magic of joining a box where there's a bunch of strangers that you just happen to train with, and friendships emerge, and people start meeting up outside for a hike on a Saturday or whatever. I understand what this is. So I think that stands me in really good stead in this job right now.
Yeah. That's I mean, so I have a lot of questions from what you just
fire away.
It's perfect, because my first question would be actually how you get started with this, but I want to react to that last part, that you started with CrossFit 2013 already. So how did you come across CrossFit then? Because you started before you met Sarah. I did not know that. I thought you met Sarah and then you started with CrossFit.
No, where I worked, a CrossFit box opened up next door, literally 30 seconds walk from the front door of my building over to the next one. And it was we were just curious. There were a few of us in the building who were just curious and decided to go to do a beginner's course there. And then there's no turning back after that first month. There just is.
I know.
So that's how that happened. I don't do CrossFit actively today, but I do exercise. I'm more inclined for all things lifting rather than running. So I move the barbell a lot, and that's my training. And of course, I have what I learned in the CrossFit box really helps out with that.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, okay, cool. So you started with CrossFit 2013. So for 11 years, 11 years you've been doing CrossFit.
I haven't. No, I did it for 1 year. I did it for 1 year. Then I pivoted towards powerlifting, and then I've just been in and out of whatever you can call training. I tried to stay active in some way, but I discovered CrossFit, and I did show up 4 or 5 times a week for a whole year to the box.
Nice. So when you met Sarah, is that how you pronounce her name in Icelandic?
Sarah, yeah, you roll the R's.
Yeah.
Ra. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm from southern Sweden, so my dialect is a bit. I can't do the R.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, Sarah. Yeah. So when you met her, you knew about CrossFit, and you knew about the power of CrossFit, and you understood how she felt about CrossFit. And,
but I had no idea about the competitive aspect of CrossFit. I did not know that Matt Fraser was a champion. I did not know. I knew about the Icelandic competitors because they are in the media here. They're celebrities over here, of course. So, of course, I knew who she was, but I had no gauge of the gravity of the sport or how big it was, how impactful it was, and all of that. That's basically just a journey that I start on once I get to know her.
Yeah, all right. You could maybe correct me here, because I heard either from a podcast that you were, a Swedish podcast that you were on, they used to, they don't exist anymore, I don't think, or I heard it from Sarah herself. I met her at a training camp in Falun in Sweden. And I don't remember who said it, but someone said that basically you helped her out with social media, and she needed help with the Instagram and stuff like that, because she was already pretty big in 2016.
I mean, she had podium twice at the games. She already had like 600,000 or 700,000 followers on Instagram. But the thing is, this happened so fast. And in 2016, we weren't as used to social media as we are now. Everyone was pretty much just figuring out how to use this tool. And given that I was in the creative business, I had already operated a creative agency for a long time. This was maybe something that came naturally to me to help her out with, how do you fulfill the sponsor duties? How do you build your brand through your social media? How do you continue growing this thing while remaining authentic and not just copy pasting whatever everyone else is doing or whatever? I mean, that's one of the things that have set her aside in many respects. It's, if you scroll through her social media, it's not really that regular, but whenever she posts something, it's real, It's and she will give you insight into what she's doing, what she's thinking, what she's feeling, which is what her fans want. They want this little access to her. And obviously with her YouTube channel now, which has been a big hit, that's an easier way to give that all those regular updates out. But she has very much catered to the audience for a long time. And of course, I helped out with just helping her mindset that thing and realize how she can use this tool to build. Obviously, when you have an audience, when you have a target audience in front of you that listens to you and takes you seriously, you're also very valuable towards the brands that want to invest in you. So that's how that whole thing is created. And for a long time, this is what the athletes, this was the only income source for the athletes. It's either you have some sponsorships and you deliver your duties of those sponsorships through your social media, or you don't get anything paid. And well, in many respects, this is still the way it is. So I was helping out with that. I wasn't really doing her sponsorship deals or negotiating anything on her behalf. That happened later. That just organically went into that direction. She did have a manager at the time, but then it was just simpler to have that whole thing just in one place. And I was obviously up for that at the time. I've been doing deals all my life, so it comes very naturally to me to sell something or haggle about something with someone else. So that comes very naturally to me. So obviously, I figured if I want to make a living out of this, that's the part I need to also take in.
Yes, of course, and I think I saw, like, I remember her Instagram growing quite fast during at least 17, 18, and
Yeah, all the way through to 20. And then the
yeah,
algorithm continually changes. It's just not as easy to grow right now, not
no,
organically. And I mean, shame on anyone who is buying followers. That's the dirtiest and cheapest trick you can pull, and the business is catching up to it. So any of those
yeah,
people who've been buying followers to appear bigger than they actually are, they have it coming to them. It's
yeah.
the only way to do this is organically by building a strong relationship with your audience and actually sharing something that people want to see. So that's the only thing you can do there.
I mean, you talk a lot with athletes, and
Mhm.
you probably talk a lot about social media and Instagram and YouTube and stuff like
I
that.
do.
And how like do is there a my understanding is that there might be a lot of pressure on the athletes to perform on social media
There
because of
is.
what you said, dealerships, and
Hmm.
yeah, just a lot, they need a lot of eyes on them.
Hmm. That's what pays the
Is there
bills.
yeah, yes, exactly. And you said, so Sarah, she sort of started working with social media more like, well, in the case of being herself more on
Yeah.
social media, not posting as often as she might think she needs to, but
Hmm.
when she posts, it's the actual Sarah we are seeing. Because
True.
I met her, and she is the same as on social
Yeah.
media. I think
Unlike
there's no difference.
many, unlike very many in this world, not just in CrossFit, people tend to have one personality on social media and then a totally different
Yeah,
one in real life. She is exactly the same way when the camera is on or off. And
yeah,
that, that's a very likable and charming person by default. And that's the person people admire and want to follow. So, of course, her popularity comes from the fact that she has humor. She is attractive. She is a crazy, crazy good athlete. And
yeah,
then she's got all these difficulties, all these injuries, all these things that have been happening, which make her so human. And the
yeah,
fact that she doesn't give up, that she just keeps on pounding, even though the odds have sometimes been stacked all against her, that's also inspiring. And
yeah.
we have not seen the grand finale to that story yet, and I'm just looking forward to, because she isn't done, not even close.
Yeah, I can. I'm just waiting because I mean, she's doing yeah, she's working a lot in different areas. Like, we can see it
Mhm.
clearly. Um, my question here is also towards other athletes that you might work with that feel this pressure of
Yeah,
performing on social media, and how do you, like, do you talk with them about trying to be
absolutely,
themselves instead, and
absolutely.
like, how does
You
that
know,
talk
it's
look like?
every person is different. Every person has something. There are introverts and there are extroverts and there are perverts. There are all kinds of verbs. So uh, you need to play with what you have, and a very introverted person cannot be converted into someone who is a social media superstar. No, that just doesn't happen. So, but all of them are joined by the fact that they train, they have a disciplined lifestyle, they compete regularly, and their audience does too. It's the audience that is following CrossFitters is also training. So they are not only there for someone who has stardom potential. They're also just there to observe athletes that are better than they themselves are and learn from them and be inspired by them. And so the go-to is always just share the work that you're doing in the gym, share your aspirations, your goals, give insight when you're competing, give some insights into what that life is like, show people what you're eating, how you do your mobility, What's your sleep score? I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that does not require you to be a comedian or whatever else, just in the stuff that you're already doing anyways. And so just start by displaying the things that you're doing anyways, and don't be afraid of it being too repetitive. I mean, the people who are following you, they're doing repetitive shit too. And nothing registers when you just say it or show it once. I mean, we are subjected to so much media. We have our phone in our hands all day. We forget what we saw instantly. Memes are a pretty funny gauge of that. I think I receive the same memes over and over again, and I forget that I saw them the last time, and I find them just as funny now, even though someone sent me the same thing 2 weeks ago. So so don't be afraid of being repetitive, because the people who are following you, they are doing that for a reason, and they are interested in what your life is all about.
I can. You're probably right here. I mean, or you are right. I mean, I can only speak for myself, and I can speak for my friends as well that are trying to, or have aspirations to get bigger on social media. And I mean, I'm around a few athletes, not on any semifinal level, but still pretty good athletes in Sweden.
People who take it seriously, people who have aspirations and goals, and they probably follow some athletes that inspire them, and they're not really thinking if they said something funny today. They're more interested in what's their Fran time, or what are they doing? Are they in a strength block right now? What does it consist of? So
what do they think about during burpees, for example?
And how do they stay motivated during the marathon row or whatever? You know, there's a lot of stuff that can cater to this audience that is not necessarily comedy or engaging content to the masses.
No, that's true. That's a good. I think that's a good point to bring up. That stay simple, show your life, repeat it, because it is repetitive.
Because the algorithm rewards you for consistency. Your content shows up more if you're consistent in the delivery of it. If you just go in every once in a while, you don't really make any traction that way.
So because I mean, your company, Bakland Management, that's correct, right?
Yes.
How does that work? Like, how does the business work? You find athletes or athletes, and how do you start working with an athlete?
Yeah, I think by now it's reputation. Primarily, it's just the athletes and the coaches know who I am. Some of them like me, others hate me. You know, it's I'm not for everyone, but it's I have delivered results for so many athletes, and I have a very strong relationship with the brands in the sport. So once an athlete reaches that level where they kind of need to stop coaching or doing their day job or whatever in order to be able to take that next step, they start seeking out, okay, who can help me with this? Who can help set this, put this all together with me? And at that stage, they will reach out to some of the agents, one or two of them, and I'd like to believe that I am one of the ones that always gets a consideration when that happens. But this is such a personal job, though, and sometimes people get along and sometimes they don't, and it's not because of something negative or anything. Just personalities either match or they don't. So, and that's what I have found. I have worked with phenomenal athletes, but we just didn't vibe. We never got off to that moment where we were completely calm around another, or there was total trust. And when that's the case, it's just better to go separate ways rather than to try to fix something that is unfixable. It's a very personal job, and if people can't slot into somewhat of a friendship around it, then there's no point to it.
No, right. So it's like, I mean, you're basically the second person closest to the athlete after the coach, Right.
Well, in some cases, just right there on an even keel with the coach, just different things. The coach does everything performance related, and I do everything business related. And I and the coach need to get along, because there need to be clear boundaries, and there needs to be a very good trust between me and the coach, which I have with some coaches who for that reason, when they have a new athlete coming up or whatever, they may even reach out to me and say, hey, this athlete has potential. Would you be interested? So while there are other coaches who dislike me or who I dislike or whatever, it's not everyone can be friends. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, of course. So you help them, and you help them find brands that, just to like explain for the audience, like how does it work? What do you help the athletes with?
Yes. I sit down the athletes in the beginning and I ask them some very, very direct questions about their aspirations, their preferences, what are their goals, in which order do they want things to go, and what is their capacity. Are they flat broke, or do they have some support? Do they have time, or do they not? Because it's very different what the strategy is if this athlete is literally unable to continue being an athlete unless they get an X amount of money paid every month, or if they have some cushion and can build a bit slower. But these are the things that we find out, and I say we because it's me and my colleague Lucille. We both manage athletes. She has her athletes, I have my athletes, but we interact every day, and we collectively represent the athletes in a way. So that's what we do. We sit down, we ask those questions. If we feel that there is potential, and if we feel that there's a realistic opportunity there, we will offer our services. And from there, a strategy on which brands to connect with, what to ask for, what to offer, those are the things that happen next. And an unknown athlete with 2,000 followers, that will have to be an exceptional athlete for there to be a real opportunity to make a living off of that. I say followers, but of course, what follows is performance ability and how that athlete performs in competitions and everything. I mean, someone like Roman Krenikov, who 2018 showed up unknown and won the European regional, obviously there was potential there instantly. I mean, the guy came out of nowhere, still from a very tough market, from very far away, didn't speak a word in English, and all of that. So it was challenging, but the main brands in the sport all got the memo at the same time that this guy has the capacity to even win the games. And that has been firmly established right now, even though he's yet to win the games. I mean, he injured himself last year. Otherwise, he would have won. I think I'm not the only one on that on that opinion, I think. But anyway, so, I mean, that's. But for anyone who displays such incredible capacity early, there are the athletes who are just on the trajectory, who have the potential and could become really, really good if they have the chance to just continue training and building towards it. And that can take time. So we have a pretty realistic metric for what the capability is from the market for each athlete. And we try to be just truthful when we speak to them, that we believe or we don't believe, that's what it has to be.
I think that's what you have to hear as well as an athlete. Like you want to hear that. I think I'm not an athlete myself in that regard, but you want to hear the truth, right? And a tough truth can change you, and try to work on becoming one that Bakland believes in, so to say.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when let's talk about, like, for example, Roman. For example, he's a big guy within the CrossFit community at this point, and he, as you said, he exploded out of nowhere, or not a lot of people knew about him. Maybe the big analysts like Brian Friend and stuff. I'm not sure, but
no one knew about him. I mean, he had finished in the 100th something place in Europe the year before. He was a name you might have seen on a piece of paper somewhere, but no one knew what to expect except Nick Fowler, his coach. He had already spotted it, but really there were very few who were aware of Roman Krenikov.
Yeah. And I mean, he, for example, let's talk a little bit about Roman. Because he came out of nowhere, as we said, and he's very big now. It took him a lot of years to actually get to go to the games, and he went and he offered or he sacrificed a lot of things.
He sure did.
To get to go to the games, and now he's in the US and he can train there. He can actually compete there, and he gets to be a games athlete. And but he is still someone that has, from what I'm seeing, a top place in the market and has to work a lot to keep that up, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, I no longer represent Roman. We parted ways. When was it?
Okay.
Last year. So the beginning of last year, we parted ways. And I mean, we probably have completely separate stories of how that came about. But I mean, I'm still getting over that, to be honest, because there was a lot of work there was a lot of emotional work that went into this whole Roman saga, and I was very emotionally invested in him getting to America and seeing all those dreams and realizing all these dreams. So he is a phenomenal athlete. Now he has the chance to really display that, and I mean, he's earned all the good that has been coming his way. He's been. It's incredible how he stayed motivated through all those hard times and everything that all the decisions he made, all the sacrifices he made. Very few people in the world would ever make those sacrifices to chase the dream. So the fact that he is actually living the dream, he deserves that. And that's a story that should be highlighted more.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. And I want to highlight as well, as you just mentioned a little bit, you helped him get there, and you did a phenomenal job. And that's why I want you on this podcast, for people to get to know you, and for especially the athletes in Sweden and in Scandinavia to get to know who you are. And because you help athletes in this type of ways and in a lot of other types of ways. So I am very grateful because I get to see Roman Krenikov at the games, which is pretty cool.
Obviously, Roman is the guy that got Roman to the games. That's, I mean, and I wasn't the only person helping out, and I cannot take credit for all those things. I was there. I was close with him. I helped financially and in many other ways. I did what I could. I communicated a lot with CrossFit on his behalf, but he is the one that put in the work that was required to get over there. So no one deserves this more than him.
All right. Yeah, that's true. I guess, you are right. I mean, he put in a lot of work. If we're looking at like athletes that are up and coming, I've asked you on Instagram before, and you mentioned a few, and you mentioned one girl that I think is also an up and coming athlete. Is Jennifer Mew.
I no longer work with her. No, I no longer work with her. So
all right. But do you see any other athletes that are up and coming that you work with and that you think will be?
I mean,
a great success?
Many. I mean, obviously Lucy McGonigal is she's incredible. She's absolutely incredible. And the new Icelandic girl, Bergrós Björnsdóttir, who is 17-year-old. She's the newest daughter. So Lucy took first place, and Bergrós took third place at the games last year in the 16-17 division, both on their younger year, which is quite a remarkable achievement in itself. And they are both going to the team games again now on their older year as 17-year-olds. So and they were both at the semifinals with the elites as well. Lucy, I think, finished in 19th place. Bergros, she twisted her ankle on the final day and had to withdraw from the competition. But I mean, these are the future competitors, and in Europe, these are the future. I also work with Ella Wilkinson, who is who just came back to the sport after finishing her university studies. She sat out last season. She trained, but she didn't participate in the season. And she came back in fire. She was in around the qualifying spots the whole competition, ended in 14th. Really? So she did really, really well. And I mean, on the flip side, there is Shelby Neal, who is 23 years old. She took 19th at the games last year. Emma Lawson, obviously, she's second fittest in the world right now at 19 years old. It's these are some crazy numbers. And we have a lot of up and coming athletes. Lucille, she manages Victor Hoffer, who is arguably the most exciting young male. He's 21, going to the games now for the first time. I have Colin Bosshart, who is 22. He narrowly missed out on the games qualification this time. There's a lot of exciting athletes coming up.
And he missed. He actually didn't he win the world championship in functional fitness.
Colin did, yes. Colin Bosshart did. And he is a phenomenal athlete. He was so unlucky. He was in 7th place going into the final event in Lyon and just burnt out. It was a brutal event, and he had a really rough run at it. And it cost him so much. It was so slim. I mean, we saw Uldis Upeniks have 2 event wins, and then he didn't make it to the games, also because that final event, it just really took everything out of them. So that was brutal.
Yeah, it was. And semifinals are brutal when it comes to finishes. And we love it for it, do, right? But
of course.
But I have a question about that, actually. What have you ever experienced where one athlete just misses out on something big like the games, and one athlete at the same time, at the same competition, just gets in? Have you had that scenario happen?
I'm thinking, like it was the most dramatic I can remember now this year. That was it was the most dramatic, and to see it also happen with Annika Greer in the North America East, where she looked like she was going to be qualifying only to just miss by 1 point or something. I mean, it's horrible and it's heartbreaking, but these are the young athletes who actually have the time to build back and make sure that this never happens again. If they use it as fuel, it's a good thing. Colin, he'll be at the games next year. Let's just be completely clear. The growth that he will, because he has so much potential. He's a young athlete he has shown us some of his specific skills, but in 12 months, he will have honed all of it, and he will have improved what he needed to improve and all of that. So I think Colin Bosshart is definitely going to be a big name in the future.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. Do you work with Jon Koski?
No, I don't.
No, right. Because I was thinking maybe you did, but I wasn't sure.
I mean, I probably would have wanted to, but I mean, he's just had an agent all along, and I think Jon is doing pretty well. So I work with Henrik Haapalainen, and I work with BKG. I mean, those 3 train together frequently and are good friends. So I mean, I'm connected with Jon. I mean, we say hello when we meet and all of that. But but he is doing well, and I'm a big admirer of Jon Koski. I'd say he's a phenomenal athlete, and it's one of those mysteries of this season, how he won the Open, won the quarterfinals, but then just didn't show up at the semis. I have no idea what happened. He probably does. I mean, often these athletes will not tell you what was going on. there's a lot of injuries or stomach flus or whatever that can be happening during the competition that really makes it so that they just can't demonstrate their capabilities. And some athletes just choose never to use an excuse. They will just accept, and then they just deal with it internally and make sure that they show up ready next time.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a mystery, and I would love to interview Jonne. I've actually had Henrik on during an episode, so
Henrik is one of those athletes. Henrik is one of the athletes who always delivers. He is fucking phenomenal. He's been on the podium in the last 2 European competitions. Last 3, in the last 3 European competitions, he's been on the podium. And he and no one ever talks about him. It's crazy. And he's even a funny guy. He's a great guy. So it's Henrik needs more love from the community.
And the way he delivered the last event during this year,
it was so beautiful. That was a Hollywood finish. Yeah,
we have a Swedish athlete, pretty good up here in the north. Like he's the second or maybe third best Swedish athlete.
What's his name?
Filip Lundqvist.
Okay.
And he actually said during the Swedish national championship in functional fitness, he had a workout where we dominated. And he's like, I tried to find a way to do the same thing as Henrik Happelainen, but I wasn't as cool. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, Henrik just in a workout that broke so many athletes that they just didn't have any more grip strength. They just couldn't hold the damn dumbbells. Yeah. He just had so much strength left that he could have held on to it much longer if he wanted to. So it was a great event for him.
Really, really. I was mentioning Jonne because Jonne Koski, because I first of all I thought you managed him because of Henrik and BKG and that little gang of guys, and but he has I think, I'm not sure if Laura Horvath also has them as sponsor, but Red Bull. And
they both have.
I know, Red Bull. And I've seen Red Bull come up more and more in CrossFit, in the CrossFit community. I wanted to ask you that knows more about brands within CrossFit community, because I've also seen that Red Bull is starting to show up within the cycling community, like not only downhill and extreme sports like Tour de France and stuff like that. And I was thinking, it wouldn't surprise me if we see a CrossFit Games sponsored by Red Bull in the near future.
Well, that would really surprise me, actually.
Oh, okay.
That would be. Because there is internal conflict there on only working with brands that are that contain no added this or added that or whatever. But I mean that's a conversation I will not sound very intelligent in anyways. But Red Bull have amended their focus towards training and exercise and those things more. They're still, of course, with their DNA is the extreme sports. It's if you want to jump out of an airplane without a parachute or whatever, then Red Bull are probably going to sponsor you. But in the recent just 18 months or so, I have seen them make moves more. I mean, they're one of the main sponsors of Hyrox, for example, which is a phenom right now that a lot of people are participating. A lot of CrossFit people participate in that as well. And then Jonne has been sponsored by the local Finland Red Bull. Lucas Hagberg was sponsored by Red Bull in Sweden. And I think Laura, without really knowing it, it looks like she's sponsored by the Red Bull in Hungary. So it's the local markets who have some flexibility to bet on local athletes to them, but with the support of, obviously, of Red Bull Global. Yeah. So yes, I mean, obviously, I'm on this trail and I'm having conversations too, of course. And I mean, for a brand like Red Bull to come in, we love it. That's that's a great brand to have in, because it's also a brand that really elevates the athletes, really has the platform to elevate and grant these athletes more eyeballs that otherwise wouldn't have caught on to them. I mean, Red Bull is in every way a media company, just like it is a soft drink or an energy drink.
Yeah, right. All right, then yeah, I understand. I mean, you have to think about both sides, right, when it comes to sponsorships and stuff like that. So
I mean, they
maybe
tried
not
with
the
Monster. That didn't
game.
last long at the CrossFit Games. Monster did not last long as a main sponsor.
No, that's true. That's true. So what do you think needs to happen? Because we've seen a lot. Like I will ask this question, and I probably you asked yourself this question and been asked this question, but we see a lot from CrossFit. We see a lot of negative criticism. We see a lot of like we actually do see that sponsors are only sponsors for a few years now with the CrossFit Games, and the media department is basically nothing at this point. And what do you see? Like, what do you think needs to improve?
I think a lot of things that I probably wouldn't say out loud, to be honest.
Yeah. Sure, I understand.
I made the decision, instead of whining and being all negative, to let's now see what happens. Let's see what happens in Texas. What awaits us there? Did they actually make a good decision there? It's so many will just look at the temperature in Texas and instantly decide that it's a crazy decision. Maybe it isn't. Maybe something positive and inspiring and awaits us there. Maybe these will be the best games ever. You know,
yeah,
we can
I like that.
we can only talk about it and weigh it up and measure it afterwards. So once the season is over and once we get to see a bit more what are the intentions for the future of the sport, then I will have an educated opinion on it. But in short, we need to standardize this in some way so that people who don't train CrossFit, so that the audience isn't limited to people who train CrossFit, so that it can be grown outside of it. It's MMA, for example. You don't need to know the difference between Muay Thai or Taekwondo or boxing or Jiu-Jitsu or whatever to understand that the guy who either submits or knocks out the opponent wins. And that's something that everyone can understand. So you watch a cage fight, if that's what you enjoy watching, which a lot of people do, me included, then you're just waiting to see one person wins and the other loses. It's very simple. They do 5 minutes, then 1 minute off, then 5 minutes, then 1 minute off. This is easy. I can explain this to my grandma. She can watch it too, if it's not too bloody for her. And the same goes with football. As soon as the ball is in the net, you have won, and the other team has 0. And then it's who scores more goals. You don't really have to understand the mechanics of a offside trap or whatever to be able to understand it. But then you sit down and you try to watch a CrossFit event and you don't know what the fuck is going on. Unless you have... Yeah. And also it's when you're watching it, you are not really helped much to understand what's going on. I mean, the commentators are doing the best they can. The broadcast team is doing the best they can. But it's a very, very complex thing to broadcast. So in terms of drawing in the new audience who will there are certain events, there are certain sprints or head-to-head or lift-offs or something that can be really, really interesting. But then there are events who you turn on the TV and you don't know what the fuck is going on and you just turn it off. So some sort of standardization, some sort of education that helps anyone who wants to get into it to understand what the sport is all about. This would help a lot in just bringing a bigger audience to there, because a bigger audience means more money, more opportunities, more everything. So that's the part where I have strong opinions and no solutions. that's the problem. I'm just waiting for someone to show up with a solution that I can just okay, thank you. Because it's so easy to sit here and yap and criticize. That's why I'm just going to wait and see what happens in Texas. It's an indoor facility, so as it looks, there is a first event that's outdoors. That's fine. It's the first event, and it doesn't matter what the weather is going to be like. It's probably just going to be really hot. I doubt there will be rain. And then they have that Saturday Night Lights event as well out on the field. Aside from that, it's in an air-conditioned facility, a big facility, and who knows? This might be a great experience. It might set it up for easier broadcast and more clear-cut everything. Who knows? The CrossFit Games have been hampered by rain and all kinds of stuff like that has obviously dampened the experience for everyone, and they had to change events at the last minute because of the rain and everything. So I think there will be less of that. Maybe it will be super organized. Maybe it will run really smoothly. Maybe we will see real battles, real grind up to the finish line where you don't know who's going to win the event until someone finishes a fraction of a second ahead of someone else. Those are the things that get everyone to stand up from their seats and cheer and be loud. And those are the moments that we all love. Of course, not every event can cater to that if you're testing whole fitness, but there are things that can be done that increase the quantity of those moments. So I'm hoping to see some of that.
Yeah. I totally agree, and I respect that answer, because, as you said, we don't need to talk at all before we've seen anything. But we can expect, and we can hope, so to say.
What I can say is, as an agent, I have very pleasant conversations and communication with CrossFit. They've been very inclusive with us as of late, and there's a lot of things in place that make me feel like there is a future to this. There is a strategy in place. There is something here that we all need to help out, and we all need to stand united to help it grow. Because if we're all just going to be complaining, then nothing happens.
Yeah, right. You mentioned something, actually. You mentioned we need some kind of standardization as well. Like you were talking a little bit about that. And I think the functional fitness community and the IF3, or the International Functional Fitness Federation, it's a long word. They are that part of the sport, because I sort of lump that together with CrossFit. It's much more standardized. Like, what do you know about functional fitness, and do you talk with?
No, I've never had any communication with them. I know absolutely nothing about them other than the fact that Colin Boshart is the champion.
Yeah. All right. Because there is a lot happening there as well. I've been part of the federation here in Sweden, and I work as a speaker and MC at the Swedish National Championship this June, and so I'm a part of that in Sweden, and I've seen it grow tremendously in Sweden, in Norway, I think a lot in Finland as well, and it's growing a lot, and it's within the federational work of sports, and the goal is to get to the Olympics. And then you need to standardize it, because otherwise the Olympic committee and stuff like that won't understand it.
If you could standardize the games, I will be shot for saying this, but if you can standardize it so that you know the types of tests that await you, that there's a longer time domain outside that will involve some endurance, swimming, blah, 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 is the first one. If you have just those standards in place, even though you don't know the exact workout until at the last minute or whatever, then already that helps everyone prepare for it. That helps the media prepare for it. That helps the broadcast prepare for it. And it helps the people who are both watching the event or attending it. They know what they're in for. They know kind of the time domains. They know the number of events that it's going to be and all of that. So that would already help. Standardization, this is just a tricky topic because some hate it, others love it. But if it is to go to the next level, if it is to have a shot at becoming Olympic or whatever, it has to be standardized. You're damn right about that. So these are just things that these are just various opinions. I can pivot over to Hyrox, which is a sport that I engage in as well as a manager. I manage both Hunter McIntyre, the 3-time champion, and Meg Jacoby, who just won it right now. That's always the same thing. It doesn't involve any high skill movements. You don't need to be able to do handstand walks or muscle ups or anything. You need to be able to push a sled and pull a sled. You need to do a farmer's carry. You need to do things that everyone does in CrossFit boxes. And then running is the most critical part of it all. I mean, it's primarily good runners or exceptional runners who are doing well there. Okay, wait a minute. My phone is calling right now. I lost you. Are you there? Okay.
I am here.
Yeah. So it's primarily excellent runners, but they have to be able to do all those functional movements. And it's always the same thing over and over and over again. So for anyone to understand the sport, you only need to see it once and then you understand what it is. And I think that will help bring a lot of eyeballs there. And it's also not as intimidating to anyone who wants to participate because they know what they're training for and signing up for. That makes it completely different than the unknown and unknowable. And if you remove the unknown and unknowable from CrossFit, you've kind of removed CrossFit. So there isn't a good answer to this, to be frank.
I understand. I completely understand. And this is the difficult part with this conversation, sort of like we want the sport to be very, very standardized compared to what it is, but we also want it to be chaos because CrossFit is a bit of chaos. CrossFit is to prepare for chaos.
The solution, the one solution that I think everyone agrees is necessary is more media, more character development, more introduction of all things happening in the competitive aspects of CrossFit, so that so that we can watch media regularly, we can follow the athletes that we favor, and we can form an opinion on the athletes too, because the only ones bringing those athletes to us now are the outside media sources and then the athlete themselves. And it didn't used to be like that. So that's one of the things that the UFC, they got it right from day one. They realized instantly how to use YouTube, for example. And they created those reality shows, which in essence brought in new fighters into the organization. They did so many brilliant things on the media side, which led to the incredible rise of the sport. And they did the impossible because people did not want this. Did I lose you?
No, I'm back.
Okay.
I lost my...
Okay. Sorry. I don't know if the audio went out or not. Do you think it did?
1 second. Can you hear me?
Is it still recording? Yeah, it seems to be still recording.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to go back to it.
Yeah.
The UFC pulled off the impossible. They took complete barbarism where you locked two men in a cage in a gladiator fight which ended up with with the last man standing, and people were so against it. It was bloody, it was brutal. They did formalize it and they did regulate it over time without removing the excitement, though. And they managed to do that without removing the excitement. So, in formalizing CrossFit without removing the excitement, that's kind of the goal and the task in hand. But building media, building characters, building personalities on the way there, very important. And I feel like those doing that are people like you, people like Andrew Hiller, Sevan, Talking Elite Fitness, but CrossFit aren't really doing it themselves.
No, I agree. And I mean, I have a perfect quote that actually explains that CrossFit was doing it before. It's that I love baby food. That's what just brought Sarah to my heart. I mean, when she said that, and pizza. It's and like, pizza. Yes, because now all of a sudden, I'm not sure. I think it was Sevan Metosian who filmed that actual behind the scenes. But now all of a sudden, we all know who Sarah is.
Yeah, I mean, this is where she was built. You know, she wouldn't have had the fan base she has if it weren't for those movies and for the content that was being catered.
Yeah.
She happened to be a very camera-friendly personality. She happens to have a wicked sense of humor and realize that just in being her quirky self, that resonates with the masses. But if she didn't have the platform to, if people only knew her for what she did on the competition floor, then yes, she would have drawn some people in, but not nearly as many. That's just a fact.
And for people who don't know what I'm talking about the behind the scenes from 2015.
Yeah, the movies, the Fittest on Earth movies that they released every year.
Yes, exactly. And they are awesome. Probably on Netflix still. I'm not sure. But
exactly.
And that was media before. And now it's not there at CrossFit. It's outside of CrossFit. With all the types of media people around the world, basically.
Yes.
I totally agree with you. And I agree with everyone else that also says that we should have media, more media from CrossFit's side.
That would help. That would help CrossFit bring brand interest in, and that would help the athletes grow. It would.
Yeah. Are you going to Texas?
Fuck yeah, I am. That's we have 12 individuals and one team athlete competing there, so that's quite a bunch of people that may need some support.
Yeah. I would love to go. I don't have the financial stability enough to go.
It's gonna cost. That I can tell you.
Competition at the moment, but it's gonna be awesome, I think. And I'm looking forward to see all the Swedish teams. We have a lot of Swedish teams going to the CrossFit Games, as well as, of course, Emma Tall.
Of course, who I manage.
Yes. And I think it's going to be a great year for the Swedish teams, especially. I think we might have a podium for the first time ever. And I mean, if you look at it, Scandinavia took 8 out of 8 places.
In the teams. Yeah, because the Norwegians have been like laboratory growing teams, it seems.
Yes, and that's a lot thanks to, I would say, Joachim Rygh and Christine Holte for the Krieger programming, but also to the Federation of Functional Fitness in Norway, because they managed to get financial aid for the athletes within the government.
I did not know that.
And in Sweden, we are working on the same thing, and we're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. And
that will definitely help. That will change the game.
Yeah. So my last question to you is, because it's so much growing, like the potential is growing within Europe, actually, because we have Spanish athletes, we have and teams. We have a lot of different people in Europe becoming better and better and better. What are your? I think I know the answer, but what are your thoughts of how CrossFit should manage the potential and the quality and the like basically how good Europe is performing on the CrossFit stage?
I think they did it really, really dirty this year by removing places. It was absolutely ridiculous, and I think it upsets the balance. They distributed places to other regions that don't have that didn't really have the skill level too. So by removing those places, they were effectively denying athletes that are better or higher performing than the athletes that actually make it. So I thought that was really, really not the right move to make, and I think they distributed those places unequally, and that needs to be looked at for next season. Not to mention that I mean the man in the Asia region, there were in the 3 out of the top 4 slots that popped for PEDs, and then the guy that picked up the that was awarded the ticket instead, he didn't get a visa to travel to the States. So I feel for anyone who can't get a visa. I've had my fair share of dealing with stuff like that through Roman and others. So I understand that, but we need to get the fittest people to the games. That needs to be the purpose. And if there is a strategy in place, hey, we cannot forget about this region or that region, then it just has to be one ticket for that region, unless the level of the athletes suggests otherwise. And I think the level of the European athletes is far higher than 10 male and 10 female tickets to the games. And I stand by that. Also, the growth of the sport is happening here. The community is still really, really active. In Spain, in France. I mean, look at the turnout for the semifinals in Lyon. People showed up. The venue was packed. So
it wasn't just packed. It was the noise in that arena was hectic.
It wasn't just friends and family and training partners. It was people who traveled in just to be at the show, just to enjoy themselves. So I think there's a lot of good things happening here in Europe. I think Rogue played a masterstroke by moving their event, the Rogue Invitational, to Scotland. I think that's going to be an excellent show. And the UK in particular, the community over there is just wild. They show up for their events.
Yeah. Yes. I am doing everything I can, and I want to go to Rogue this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that would be crazy, actually. And did you hear about? Because I actually agree. I do agree with you. Europe got robbed this year, and I think the man who is in charge of the games, Dave Castro, I think he learned a lesson when he saw and he heard about, because there were a lot of. I mean, the CEO was in Lyon, so he saw what the community did, and I mean, I think they regret what they did a little bit, because he actually, I think it was Laura Horvath who asked him when is the games coming to Europe, and he basically said 2027. So yeah, things are
can't come soon enough. I think games in Europe would be phenomenal. Would be absolutely phenomenal.
Well, I will let you get back to work or whatever endeavors you have, Snorri. I would like to thank you again for joining the podcast, and I hope more people, and especially athletes, can reach out to you if they want help. And I will not see you at the games, but I will.
I'll see you at Rogue. I'll see you at the Rogue Invitational.
I'll see you at the Rogue Invitational.
All right.
And I wish you safe travels. And I hope especially the Swedish athletes, Emma Tall and
Of course,
will do good. Let's
yeah,
hope.
Emma will do really well. She is in a phenomenal shape, and we saw that at the semifinals, and she's just going to carry on. I mean, she had a great games last year in 11th place. She's going to finish higher this year. I can guarantee that.
So.
Yeah,
I think so too. I will put her up in top 8, probably higher.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So well, thank you a lot for this evening.
Thank you too.
And,
See you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.